The dismissal. The story opens in the grand halls of the Galactic Peace Station, a massive structure floating in neutral space. Representatives from 12 alien races sit around a circular table, their forms diverse but their attitudes united, in condescension. At the far end sits Ambassador Jack Miller, Earth's lone representative, a weathered man in his 50s, with tired eyes but steady hands. The Alien Council has been debating humanity's request for equal voting rights in Galactic affairs for 3 standard months. The tall ones, resembling elongated mantises, click their mandibles dismissively. The blue skins, aquatic beings in environmental suits, bubble with what sounds like laughter. The rock people, living stone creatures, rumble with what can only be interpreted as amusement. The humans want what? Asks Commander Vex of the tall ones, his translation device making his voice sound metallic. Equal representation. They have been in space for barely 200 years. High Priest Nog of the blue skins agrees, his suit's speakers crackling. We have watched galaxies form and die. They have watched their sun complete 200 orbits. The comparison is laughable. Ambassador Miller has heard this argument countless times. He sits quietly, taking notes on his simple tablet while the aliens debate humanity's fate as if discussing the weather. The rock people's representative, Elder Stone, pounds the table with a fist that could crush mountains. Humans are children, playing with fire, Stone declares. They wage war on their own kind. They poison their world. They know nothing of true civilization. The debate continues for hours. Each alien race presents evidence of humanity's unworthiness. They show holographic displays of Earth's wars, pollution, and social problems. They compare human technology to their own advanced systems. They laugh at human lifespans, human culture, human dreams. Miller finally stands up when they begin discussing humanity's primitive space fleet. The room falls silent, curious about what the human might say in defense. Honored representatives, Miller begins, his voice calm but firm. I have listened to your concerns for 3 months. I have heard your reasons. I understand your position. He pauses, looking each alien in what he assumes are their eyes. Earth withdraws from these peace talks, effective immediately. The silence stretches for long moments. Commander Vex is the first to speak. Withdraws? You cannot simply withdraw. These talks determine your species' future in galactic society. Miller closes his tablet and slides it into his briefcase. With respect, Commander, these talks were never about our future. They were about your entertainment. You invited us here not to negotiate, but to watch us beg for scraps from your table. High Priest Nog's suit bubbles frantically. You are making a grave mistake, human. Without our protection, your species will face the Void Hunters alone. The Dark Fleet will find your world undefended. The Shadow Empire grows stronger each day, adds Elder Stone. You need our alliance to survive what is coming. Miller stands and straightens his simple gray suit. Around him, the aliens lean forward in their seats, suddenly concerned. This is not how they expected the human to react. For 3 months, you have told us we are too young, too violent, too primitive to deserve respect in this galaxy, Miller says. You have made it clear that you see us as nothing more than amusing pets who learn to fly between stars. He picks up his briefcase and walks toward the exit. Where are you going? Demands Commander Vex. Miller stops at the door and turns, back to face the assembled representatives. Home, he says simply. To tell my people that we are on our own in this galaxy, that the great galactic civilization we hope to join sees us as jokes, that we will face whatever comes without your help or your permission. The aliens exchange glances, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, bubbles, and rumbles. You cannot protect your world alone, calls Elder Stone. Miller's expression remains calm, but something dangerous flickers in his eyes. We have been protecting ourselves long before we knew you existed, he replies. We survived. Ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have ended weaker species. We split the atom and touched the stars through our own determination. He pauses at the threshold. Perhaps it is time the galaxy learned what humans can do when they stop asking for permission and start taking action. The door closes behind him, with a soft hiss, leaving the 12 alien representatives in stunned silence. Outside the station, Ambassador Miller's small human shuttle detaches and begins its long journey home. None of the aliens move for several minutes, each lost in their own thoughts about what the humans' words might mean. The preparation. 6 months after Ambassador Miller's dramatic exit from the peace talks, Earth had transformed. The news of humanity's rejection by the galactic community spread across the planet within hours of Miller's return. Instead of despair, however, something unexpected happened: unity. President Lisa Chen stood before the United Earth Assembly, a governing body that had been formed in the wake of the galactic dismissal. Representatives from every nation sat in the hall, their differences temporarily set aside by the reality of their situation. "We are alone," Chen announced to the assembly and the billions watching around the globe. "The galaxy has made it clear that they consider us unworthy of their alliance. They expect us to fall in line or fall apart." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. They have underestimated humanity. In the months following Miller's return, Earth had undergone the most rapid military expansion in human history. Every nation contributed resources, technology, and personnel to what became known as the Terran Defense Initiative. Old rivalries were set aside as humanity faced an external threat that dwarfed any terrestrial conflict. Dr. Robert Hayes, Earth's leading physicist, presented his findings to the assembly. His team had been working around the clock to analyze captured alien technology from previous encounters. "We have made significant breakthroughs," Hayes reported. "The alien races rely heavily on energy shields and directed energy weapons. Their ships are fast but lightly armored, designed for wars against similarly equipped opponents." Admiral Kate Ross, newly appointed head of the Terran Space Fleet, took the podium next. "Our strategy is simple," she explained. "We cannot match their numbers or their technology individually, but we can use our strengths against their weaknesses." The human fleet that had been rapidly constructed over 6 months was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Where alien ships were elegant and energy efficient, human vessels were blunt instruments of war. They carried massive armor plating, redundant systems, and weapons designed to punch through energy shields. The flagship of the new fleet was the TSF Defiance, a kilometer-long battleship bristling with kinetic weapons. Unlike the energy-based armaments favored by galactic civilizations, human ships carried railguns, missile batteries, and mass drivers that could hurl solid projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Captain Mike Torres stood on the bridge of the Defiance watching his crew run final systems checks. His officers came from every nation on Earth. Commander Boris from Russia operated the weapon systems, Lieutenant Maria from Brazil managed navigation, and Sergeant Khan from Pakistan oversaw the Marines. "All systems green, Captain," reported his XO, Commander Williams. "The fleet is ready for deployment." Torres nodded, looking out at the assembled human fleet. 50 ships of various sizes floated in formation around Earth's orbital shipyards. It was not an impressive number compared to the thousands of vessels each major galactic power could field, but every ship had been built with one purpose: to show the galaxy that humanity would not go quietly. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Peace Station, the alien representatives were growing increasingly concerned about reports from their intelligence networks. The blue-skinned spy satellites had detected massive construction around Earth. The Rock People's seismic sensors had picked up unusual mineral extraction on human colony worlds. The Tall One's communication interceptors had noticed encrypted military traffic throughout human space. "They are building something," reported Commander Vex to the assembled council. "Our sources indicate massive military expansion beyond anything they have attempted before." High Priest Nog's environmental suit bubbled nervously. "Perhaps we should reconsider our position. The humans seem to be preparing for war." Elderstone's rocky features remained impassive. "Let them prepare. What can one primitive species do against the combined might of the galaxy?" But privately, each representative was beginning to wonder if they had made an error in judgment. Intelligence reports suggested that human space technology was advancing at an unprecedented rate. Their ships were crude but effective. Their weapons were primitive but devastatingly powerful. Most concerning of all were reports from the border regions, where human exploration ships had begun making contact with unaligned species. Instead of trying to dominate these minor civilizations, the humans were offering them protection and partnership. Commander Vex reviewed a particular report that made his mandibles click with concern. A human diplomatic mission had successfully negotiated an alliance with the grain farmers, a peaceful agricultural species that the galactic community had largely ignored. The humans had offered them protection in exchange for food supplies and had actually honored their agreement when pirates attacked a grain farmer convoy. They are building their own alliance, Vex realized with growing unease. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their ships, but their ability to turn enemies into friends and strangers into family. First Contact Redux. The first test of humanity's new resolve came sooner than expected. A distress signal reached Earth from the Outer Rim, where a small colony of peaceful traders called the Weavers was under attack by the Shadow Empire's advanced scouts. The Weavers were exactly the kind of species the galactic community typically ignored. Too small to matter, too weak to contribute meaningfully to the larger power's military might. They were skilled craftspeople who traded beautiful textiles and artwork throughout the galaxy, living quietly on a handful of small worlds. Admiral Ross received the distress call in her command center on Luna Base. The message was simple and desperate. Please, anyone who can hear this, the Shadow Empire has found us. Our world burns, we have nowhere else to turn. The galactic powers had received the same transmission. Their response was predictable silence. President Chen convened an emergency session of the Earth Council. The debate was brief but intense. We have no obligation to these people, argued General Park from the Military Council. Our fleet is not ready for full deployment. We risk everything for strangers. That is exactly why we must go, Miller responded, firmly. The former ambassador had been appointed as Earth's new foreign minister. The galaxy expects us to act like them, cold, calculating, concerned only with our own interests. We prove we are different by acting differently. President Chen made the decision that would change everything. Admiral Ross, deploy the Third Fleet. Show the galaxy what human values look like in action. Captain Torres found himself commanding 12 ships as they jumped into the Weaver system. What they discovered was worse than the distress calls had indicated. 3 Weaver worlds were under bombardment by Shadow Empire destroyers. The attackers were methodically destroying population centers, showing no interest in conquest or negotiation. The Shadow Empire vessels were sleek and deadly, their dark hulls seeming to absorb light. Each ship was individually more advanced than any human vessel. But the Shadow Empire had sent only a small raiding force, expecting no resistance from the galactic community. Captain, we have 6 enemy destroyers and what looks to be a command cruiser, reported Commander Williams. They outgun us significantly. Torres studied the tactical display. The Shadow Empire ships were fast and well-armed, but they were designed for terrorizing defenseless colonies. They had energy shields and plasma weapons, standard for galactic warfare. All ships, this is defiance, Torres broadcast to his small fleet. Remember your training. Ignore their shields. Go for hard impact. The human ships accelerated toward the enemy formation, their kinetic weapons charging. The Shadow Empire vessels initially ignored them, assuming they were another minor galactic power that would flee once they witnessed the destruction. They were wrong. The first salvo from the human fleet was devastating. Railgun projectiles moving, at tremendous velocity, punched through energy shields like they were not there. The Shadow Empire had never faced weapons that simply ignored their primary defense system. The enemy command cruiser, a vessel 3 times the size of the Defiance, took direct hits from mass driver rounds that tore through its hull like paper. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as human missiles found their targets. Impossible, transmitted the Shadow Empire commander in Standard Galactic. What weapons are these? Captain Torres responded on an open channel, knowing the transmission would be monitored throughout the galaxy. These are human weapons fired by human ships, crewed by humans who believe that protecting the innocent is more important than protecting ourselves. The battle was brief but decisive. The Shadow Empire force, designed to terrorize defenseless colonies, was not prepared for an enemy that fought back with such fury. Within 20 minutes, 5 of the 7 enemy ships had been destroyed. Remaining 2 fled into hyperspace. Torres immediately ordered his fleet to begin rescue operations. Human Marines and medical teams worked alongside Weaver survivors to pull people from burning cities and provide emergency aid. The contrast with typical galactic intervention was stark. Where other powers might have demanded payment or tribute, for assistance the humans asked for nothing. News of the battle spread throughout the galaxy within hours. For the first time in centuries, someone had stood up to the Shadow Empire and won. More importantly, they had done so not for profit or territory, but simply because it was the right thing to do. On the Galactic Peace Station, the alien representatives watched the battle recordings in stunned silence. Their weapons completely bypassed energy shields, observed Commander Vex, his mandibles clicking nervously. They suffered casualties but continued fighting, added High Priest Nog. They prioritized rescue operations over pursuing the fleeing enemy. Elderstone's rocky features were troubled. Perhaps we have misjudged the humans. The first crack in galactic certainty had appeared. And in the outer rim, small species that had been ignored for centuries began to whisper a new name with hope. Humanity. The ripple effect, the rescue of the Weavers, sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy that the established powers had not anticipated. Within weeks of the battle, Ambassador Miller's office on Earth was flooded with communication requests from dozens of minor species across the galaxy. The grain farmers, who had been humanity's first alien allies, sent a delegation to Earth with an unexpected proposal. Their representative, a tall plant-like being called Root Singer, addressed the United Earth Assembly. The galaxy has 2 kinds of species, Root Singer explained through their translation device. Those with power and those without. For 10,000 years we have watched the powerful ignore the powerless. The humans are the first powerful species to choose differently. Miller stood to address the assembly and the watching galaxy. We are not powerful because we have the largest fleets or the oldest civilizations, he said. We are powerful because we choose to use our strength to protect rather than to dominate. This message resonated across the outer rim. Species that had been overlooked, exploited, or dismissed by the major galactic powers began reaching out to humanity. The crystal singers, beings of living mineral who created beautiful music, offered to share their acoustic technologies. The cloud dancers, gaseous entities who lived in the upper atmospheres of gas giants, provided intelligence about Shadow Empire movements through their vast network of observation posts. Most significantly, the deep miners approached Earth with an offer that would change everything. These insectoid beings had spent millennia excavating rare metals from dead worlds, always selling their resources to the major powers for minimal compensation. We offer exclusive mining rights to humanity, their representative called Tunnelmaker announced, in exchange for protection and fair trade agreements. President Chen realized the implications immediately. The deep miners controlled access to several elements that were crucial for advanced space travel and energy generation. Elements that the major galactic powers had taken for granted would always be available. Admiral Ross received reports from her intelligence network that confirmed what she had suspected. The galactic powers were becoming nervous. Blue skin fleets are conducting training exercises near human space, she reported to the Earth Council. The tall ones have increased their border patrols by 300%. The rock people are demanding explanations from their client species about increased communication with Earth. The breaking point came when the healers, a species renowned throughout the galaxy for their advanced medical knowledge, publicly announced their intention to share their regenerative technologies with humanity. The healers had always been neutral, providing medical assistance to any species that requested it. Their decision to specifically ally with humans was unprecedented and sent panic through the established order. High Priest Nog called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The humans are disrupting the natural order, he declared, his environmental suit bubbling with agitation. Species that have been content with their positions for millennia are suddenly questioning the established hierarchy. Commander Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly as he reviewed intelligence reports. "It is worse than disruption," he said. "Our economic models are failing. The deep miners have stopped selling to us entirely. The crystal singers are refusing our contracts. Even the grain farmers are demanding renegotiation of trade agreements that have been stable for centuries." Elderstone's massive form shifted uncomfortably in his specialized chair. "The humans offer something we do not," he admitted reluctantly. "They offer partnership instead of dominance, protection instead of exploitation." The truth was becoming undeniable. Humanity's approach to galactic relations was not just different. It was more appealing to the majority of galactic species than the traditional power structure. The Shadow Empire, recognizing the threat that human expansion posed to their own predatory activities, began massing forces for a major offensive. Intelligence reports reached Earth indicating that the Shadow Empire was planning to strike at human space directly, hoping to eliminate the growing human alliance before it could become too powerful. Captain Torres, now promoted to Admiral after his success at the Weaver Worlds, prepared the expanded human fleet for what everyone knew would be a decisive battle. "They will come in force this time," he told his assembled ship commanders. "The Shadow Empire cannot allow our alliance to continue growing. They know that if we succeed in creating a new galactic order based on cooperation rather than domination, their empire of fear will crumble." The human fleet had grown to over 200 ships, each one crewed by volunteers from Earth and their new allies. Weaver textile artists worked alongside human engineers to improve ship communications. Deep miner excavation techniques were adapted to create stronger armor plating. Crystal Singer acoustic technologies enhanced human sensors beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine whether the galaxy would continue under the old order of dominance and exploitation, or embrace humanity's vision of cooperation and mutual protection. The major galactic powers watched and waited, unsure for the first time in millennia about which side they wanted to win. The admission: the Shadow Empire's assault on human space was massive and coordinated. Over 1,000 ships emerged from hyperspace simultaneously, targeting Earth, the major human colonies, and the homeworlds of humanity's new allies. It was meant to be a decisive blow that would crush the human alliance before it could spread further. Admiral Torres commanded the combined fleet from the Bridge of the Defiance, now flagship of the largest cooperative military force the galaxy had seen in centuries. Human ships fought alongside Weaver transports converted to carry Crystal Singer sonic weapons. Deep miner engineering vessels used their industrial equipment as weapons of war. Cloud Dancer intelligence allowed the fleet to anticipate enemy movements with unprecedented accuracy. The battle raged across multiple star systems simultaneously. The Shadow Empire's superior numbers and technology were countered by the Alliance's coordination and determination. Where Shadow Empire ships expected easy victories against primitive humans, they found themselves facing a unified force that fought not just for survival, but for the right to exist as equals in the galaxy. The turning point came when Admiral Torres made a decision that surprised even his own allies. As Shadow Empire forces pressed their attack on Earth itself, he broadcast a message on all frequencies. A message intended not just for his fleet, but for every species in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Torres of the Terran Fleet," he announced, as human ships engaged Shadow Empire destroyers in orbit around Earth. "We are not fighting just for humanity today. We are fighting for the right of all species to choose their own path in this galaxy." He paused as explosions lit up the space around his ship. The Shadow Empire believes in conquest through fear. The major galactic powers believe in control through exclusion. We believe in strength through cooperation. Today we prove which philosophy is stronger. The battle reached its climax when Shadow Empire forces broke through the outer defenses and began bombarding Earth cities. Instead of retreating, the human fleet pressed forward, accepting casualties to protect their homeworld and their allies. It was then that something unprecedented happened. A massive fleet emerged from hyperspace. Not Shadow Empire reinforcements, but ships bearing the insignia of the Tall Ones, the Blueskins, and the Rock People. The major galactic powers had arrived in force. For a moment, the battlefield fell silent as all sides tried to understand what was happening. Commander Vex's voice crackled across the communication channels. Shadow Empire forces, you will withdraw immediately or face the combined fleets of the Galactic Council. The Shadow Empire commander responded with confusion and anger. The Council agreed to our expansion. You promised non-interference with our operations. High Priest Nog's response was broadcasted across the galaxy. The Council has reconsidered its position. The humans have demonstrated that cooperation is more effective than domination. We choose to stand with those who protect, rather than those who destroy. Elder Stone's deep voice rumbled across the channels. We have spent millennia believing that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak. The humans have shown us that the strongest societies are those built on mutual respect and shared strength. The Shadow Empire fleet, caught between the human alliance and the major galactic powers, found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. After a brief final engagement, they retreated into the dark regions of space from which they had come. As the immediate threat passed, President Chen received a formal communication from the Galactic Council. The message was simple but historic. An invitation to join the Council not as a junior member seeking approval, but as an equal partner in galactic governance. Ambassador Miller, standing once again in the halls of the Galactic Peace Station, faced the assembled representatives who had dismissed humanity just 1 year earlier. We were wrong, Commander Vex admitted, his mandibles clicking with what Miller had learned was embarrassment. We judged your species by your age and your conflicts, not by your potential and your values. High Priest Nog's environmental suit bubbled softly as he spoke. You have taught the galaxy that diversity of thought and cooperation between different species creates strength that none of us could achieve alone. Elder Stone's rocky features showed something Miller had never seen before: respect. The humans have reminded us of what we forgot in our pursuit of individual power, that the galaxy belongs to all of us, not just the strongest among us. Miller looked around the chamber at representatives from dozens of species, not just the major powers, but the smaller civilizations that had been excluded for so long. Then let us build something new together, he said. Not a galaxy ruled by the few, but a community where every species has a voice and every world has protection. The old galactic order had ended. In its place, something unprecedented began. A true galactic community based on the revolutionary human concept that strength came not from dominance but from unity. The galaxy would never be the same again.